Okay, we are live and we're going to give folks a chance to come in. Hi, everybody. I'm Laura Chandler, the host of the Sacred Stream Radio podcast and the executive director of the Foundation of the Sacred Stream. And I'm here with my trusty sidekick, or perhaps I am your trusty sidekick, the founding director of the Sacred Stream, Isa Gucciardi. Hi, Isa.
Welcome, everyone. Welcome, Laura.
Thank you. Thank you. And, we're talking today about, finding your spiritual path and, how to nurture your spirit and your spiritual path. And, we often get questions and inquiries about that. And I think it's worth really considering what, what is spirituality as part of this conversation. But I know you probably already have some ideas of what you would like to talk about. So,
Well, what is spirituality is a great place to start.
Mhm.
And I think that's a very personal definition. I don't
Mhm.
think anyone should define that for another person. I think when we think about spirit, or spirit in particular, we think about something ineffable, something that is part of the unseen world that is, however, very much driving and influencing the world of the seen. And I think that when we think about spirituality, we're thinking about those forces that we are connected to or that we want to connect to that can guide us from that unseen place. And I think many of us who are spiritual seekers find that experience of being with the unseen something to be as important, if not more important, than being with the concerns and priorities of the seen world. So I think it's important to understand that everyone perceives that ineffable unseen experience in their own way, and some people find it, find their path with that ineffable unseen experience through more orthodox ways of thinking about spirit, such as religions, where you have particular definitions that are provided to you and that you agree to or embrace or feel are helpful to you. And then there's other people that find more comfort following that ineffable experience on their own terms and creating their own definitions and finding the manifestation of that ineffable experience in the material world in other ways other than in religious practice or religious experience that is part of a more organized form of believing and being.
Yes, definitely.
So yes, I do have a definition
You
of
do.
spirit.
You definitely
It's
do.
something I think about all the time.
Yeah. And, first, I just want to welcome everyone. Thank you for being here. Please take a moment and say hello. Let us know who you are, where you're coming in from. And also, if you could give us a thumbs up, give us a like wherever you're watching from, YouTube, Facebook. Write in the comments. We'd love to take your questions and comments. We're interested in your comments, your ideas about spirituality and what your spiritual path is, or how you look at your spiritual path. I would add to that, that in the culture, we've really gotten into this idea that there's a little bit of I hate to use the term war, but like a little fighting between science and the religions, or this idea that there has to be there's something woo-woo about spirituality, or that there's something more erudite about science. And we see more and more now that intersection of science and the idea of spirituality, or the vastness of the universe. And I think that more and more we're seeing and are really welcoming this idea that how you encounter your deeper inner self and how you nurture that and how you take time for that and really nourish your soul, as we would be a phrase we could use, but nourish your spirit the way that you would nourish your body. That we're seeing more and more, as you said, Isa, people creating their own ways of doing that. And I think part of this sort of a dichotomy that we've had for so long sort of rules one out over the other. And you don't have to do that. You can nourish your spirit and not believe in a God or not believe in a particular religious path or spiritual path. But it's so important to recognize that we do have a spirit, a self that needs nourishing, just like our bodies or our minds. And some of the ways we do this might be just quiet contemplation, deep breathing, being in nature, um, those kinds of things. So I just invite this very broad idea of nourishing the spirit and finding a spiritual path. And then we'll look some more at how we, like what spiritual paths look like and how we can develop our own relationship to our path. Would it be okay if I welcome some folks? Would you like to comment?
I just want to say,
Please.
Gyaltsen, I see that Gyaltsen is here, and Gyaltsen, you will remember we're in this room that is filled with tankas from the Tibetan Buddhist tradition, which you lived in for the better part of a year. And I was just thinking,
He lived in the room, not the Tibetan Buddhist tradition. He is still a Tibetan Buddhist.
But I was just thinking as Laura was talking that the Dalai Lama, which is on the tanka behind us, which is actually a tanka of the medicine Buddha, you actually put that picture of the Dalai Lama there, and you put it there in 2014, and we have not taken it down. Yeah. We think, and the altar behind us, you can see the butter sculptures that Gyaltsen and the other monks here left when they left. That they used that altar the whole time that they were here. And I have maintained the altar. I'm the one who changes the water the way you taught me to, Gyaltsen. I remember I came in one day and Gyaltsen was sitting, in his ineffable way on the couch. And I said, and there were suddenly these 7 bowls of this shiny, beautiful water. And I'm like, Gyaltsen, what is this? What are we doing? And he said, it's important when you have your offering that it be fresh, anything fresh. And this water is very fresh. So every day, Gyaltsen, and I change the water, I think of you. Yeah. Send you prayers and send the monks prayers, all of the monks who've gotten Shartse. And I feel a strong connection between the altar and the monastery in southern India. So I'm just talking about spiritual paths. Yes. And there's one very real one for me.
And what Isa's referring to is that we helped a Tibetan Buddhist tour of Tibetan monks for an entire year. And the short version is they lived with us for the better part of that year. And it was one of the most beautiful experiences of my life.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
So let me welcome folks, and you're welcome to ask questions about that if you have them, or comments for those of you who met the monks. Sherry's here from Connecticut. Hi, Sherry.
Hey.
And Clem is here.
Clem,
Hi, happy to be here. Thank you both. Clem, the amazing rock star drummer of Zepparella. Ron's here from Petaluma.
Hi, Ron.
And Jessica, you're in Maryland?
Yeah,
Delaware.
Maryland.
Bethesda.
She lives with Curly the donkey.
Ah, yes.
And Pedro, who is now Joseph.
Okay.
The donkey. And other horses.
Yes. And Austin is here from Connecticut. And Merle,
how are you doing?
Great.
She lives in Berkeley.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
She says, grateful to now be part of this community and the discussion of nurturing a spiritual life. Well, thank you for being here and for commenting, and please join
Merrill actually lives like 3-minute walk from the center. So it's so nice to have a neighbor. Yeah.
Great. And Karen's here from Sonoma. I just
Karen, hey.
saw Karen today and yesterday. Jamie is here, Jamie Tate from Santa Barbara. Katie is here from Martinez. Wow, I'm so glad everyone's here. Andrea is here from Colorado.
Wow.
Some Mesa Verde folks here. Sherry, Jack loves that fresh altar water too. Yes, we've caught
Yes,
it many times
yes,
drinking that altar
yes. One of Jack's favorite tricks
Our
is to
cat,
get
yes.
up on his back paws and come and drink at the
Mhm.
bar. Yeah, we call it the altar bar.
water. Yes. And Brangwen's here. So nice to see you
Brangwen,
here.
so nice
Brangwen.
to have you here. So nice to have you.
So again, thank you for being. And Amy is here in the house. Amy's here in the house. So Amy, do just shout out if you want to make a comment. So
Clementine said something important. I can't read it. I can.
happy to be here.
No, she said, I find that Buddhism.
Hold on.
I can't-
Oh, thank you. Okay, scrolling. I find that Buddhism has great language for that intersection of science and spirituality. Yes, you want to?
I think that's really true, Clementine. Thank you for pointing that out. And, I think all of the discussions between His Holiness and the various Western scientists through Mind and Life organization that took place over probably a 20-year span, I think that maybe they are still meeting. And I know that Thupten Jinpa, who is a great friend of the Sacred Stream, and who is the director or the former director, the former head of the board of Mind and Life, was also very, very instrumental in bringing together these seemingly opposite points of view and really showing the commonalities in the way that in the way that they're in what the commonalities of what each of their language was revealing in its own path in its own way.
Mhm.
So thank you, Clementine, for that.
Yeah. And should we get started with some questions that we had sent in?
Yes, sure.
Okay, we had imported.
And if you have any questions,
Yes,
please do.
Yeah,
Ask
pop them
them.
into the chat there.
Mhm.
So this is a great question. What is the difference between religion and spirituality?
Okay.
There's a big difference.
Or
Or not.
Well, I think if when we were talking about a more orthodox, finding your path through a more orthodox way of knowing and thinking about that ineffable experience of spirit, I think that that's what a religion is. But certainly within the religion is spirituality, and it's just that there are certain pathways that spirit is held in or directed towards or directed to. And so I think all religions that are honestly trying to understand the ineffable and trying to define or point out or create ritual or ceremony to help people understand the unseen aspect of their experience are spiritual in nature. Not all spirituality is religious in nature, because religion for me defines a certain set of structures and a certain set of tenets that are sort of to be observed. And in some religions, you have it defined, not only do you observe these tenets, but you don't observe those tenets. So you get into a more structured way of thinking. And spirituality is something that can be found within religion or within your own heart.
I think that's well said. I think that's really well said. Any other thoughts on spirituality?
Spirituality. I think what you were saying about we all have a spirit that needs tending the way that our bodies need tending. I think that's a really, really important thing to remember, because I think, especially with the wear and tear of the modern time and all of the emphasis on the external world and all of the external measures that everyone is measuring themselves through and trying all the different external consensus points that people are trying to meet, I think that it's really easy to lose track of one's own internal experience, and to let it become second place to more external considerations. So I think that's a really good point that you made, that it needs to be nurtured the way our bodies need to be nurtured.
And I would posit that, all, and adding to what you said, is that all religions have, they start from this idea of spirit, right? Like from this idea of a spiritual or, mystical element. I may be overly generalizing in that, but that there's a reason that they evolve, and that we can, as humans, as they become sort of, formalized in sort of the human realm and the realm of rules and things like that, we can lose some of that spark, some of that like direct connection to spirit, and in fact sometimes our relationship to our spirituality, and sometimes religions can get in the way of that. But I think at the heart of every religion is that initial impetus to be of spirit, of something spiritual. And
to understand the ineffable.
mm-hmm,
And it's not every religion. Some religions are up to other things.
well, yeah, I like to think that maybe in the beginning it started as such, and things became out of kilter, as it were.
I just got a message from Myra. She says she's having trouble signing in, but she's watching. Hi, Myra.
Hi, Myra.
Myra's in Rhode Island.
Yeah. And we have a question from Jay.
Oh, Jay.
Yeah.
Jay always has big thoughts and big questions. I
Yes.
wonder what she has to say here.
I'll let you know.
All right.
There seems to be ever increasing numbers of people who are leaving the religion of their childhood looking for meaning elsewhere, younger and older people. Any advice on where or how they should start? What are some of the ways people are called to become more deeply engaged with spirit or a spiritual path?
Wow,
That's-
well, you can always depend on Jay for a big thought.
Yes.
So I think there's two questions there, or two issues. One is that people are leaving more orthodox ways of thinking and being with spirit, thinking about and being with spirit. And then, what are some other ways? What are some of the ways that we can? I'm sorry, I can't read it. The last sentence. How do we find
More
our
deeply
path?
engaged with spirit
Yeah.
or a spiritual path?
I think that, I'm going to actually be doing a talk next month with Reverend Cameron Trimble, and she's, I believe she's a Methodist minister. And
She's a radical social activist.
yeah, that's the main
minister.
thing. Yeah, and
Yes.
she's really, really interested in trying to bring reform and to kind of open the windows and open the doors on
Inclusiveness, diversity. Yeah.
Right. And she and I have had a number of conversations about the issue that the community that she serves, which is the community of Protestant ministers, all different denominations, where she provides continuing education. And so the conversations that we have are part of that continuing education. And we'll be talking, I'm not sure, I don't know if Cody's here, but we could check.
He's here.
Maybe Cody, you could put the
Link.
the link, yeah. And we're going to be talking about gratitude and appreciation, and as a spiritual path, both from the Christian point of view and from the Buddhist point of view. And one of the reasons that she actually brought me in to start talking with her was because so many of the ministers who are taking the continuing education that she provides are losing their congregations. And I think that, and they're looking for new ways to meet people and to embrace people. And I think that one of the reasons why this is happening is not necessarily, I'm not singling out Protestant liturgists in any way, but I think that there has been, in many different kinds of situations, leaders who have not met the calling in an ethical and moral way. And I think, of course, we know about the issues with the Catholic Church and, the Catholic Church
Not
here in
just the
California.
Catholic Church.
No,
yeah.
but I'm just mentioning
Yeah.
the Catholic Church because here in California, they just paid out $830 million to settle
Mhm.
cases where
Mhm.
people had been sexually abused. So that's a huge, and that's just here in California.
Yeah.
So that's a huge. I'm not singling out the Catholic
Mhm.
Church, but I'm just pointing to the Catholic Church as an example. And you see it in Buddhist communities. You see it, where the leaders have really not been able to meet that moral and ethical standard. And so I think people have gotten disillusioned with that. I think that's a big reason. Also, I mean, when I talked to Cameron, she says that COVID was a huge, like, congregation killer.
Mhm.
It just, people
Haven't
aren't
come
coming back. They're not coming back. And so that's another reason.
There are also just cultural shifts, I think, too, that are contributing to this, how people want to engage and want to be engaged. There's a big shift um, in our society.
Yeah, I think the question of what is God or is there a God? I think that is a bigger question now than has been. So when you're asking Jay, what are some of the ways in which people are called to become more deeply with a spiritual path? They may be in search of that, what I'm calling that ineffable, what some people might call God. But also one very important reason why people rediscover spirituality is because they have some kind of calamity that's happened to them, and they're trying to understand it. And they may have been diagnosed with an afflictive disease, and they're trying to understand, what might have brought them to this place and what can bring them out of that place in terms of how they're looking at the world and how they're understanding their relationship to God or spirit or the universe. I think that's a very important way in which people find their way to the path, and it's important, and it's wonderful when people can rediscover their relationship. I know. I worked in the hospice at Zen Hospice at Laguna Honda Hospital as a volunteer for many years, and it was a Zen Buddhist hospice, but of course the people at Laguna Honda were from all over the world. It's the biggest convalescent hospital west of the Mississippi in the United States, and they had people from all over the world who were there, and um, it was really interesting to see as people were going to the end of their lives that they were re-examining and they were really trying to figure out, what their early connections with that ineffable or with God were, and they were examining and trying to understand if there was something there for them that they might be able to use to guide their path through their illness.
Yeah, really good point.
Yeah.
I want to again invite everyone to like us, put a thumbs up, like that helps reach more people and get more engagement. And go ahead and write anything you'd like in the comments, a question or a comment. And I want to say hi to Fern Marie from Rhode Island. Hey, Fern. And Myra made it in.
Myra, yay.
Hey, Myra, also from Rhode Island. And Emily Pine is here. Hey, Emily.
Emily, hey.
And Charisse is here.
Charisse, hey, how you doing?
And Karen's got a question.
Oh, and Karen's always got the big
She's got a good question.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna read that question. So Karen asks, I'm just gonna lay it out here. I'm 54 and me and all of my friends are going through menopause. We've been talking about how in other cultures, women of our age transition into the age of wisdom, and we're all honestly just feeling invisible and like we're aging, hello hot flashes. But we know we have more to offer and we're committed to embracing this phase. Can you speak to the spirit of women of my age and or make suggestions about how we can find our power in this phase of life? And I'm just going to take a moment and remind everyone, if you haven't seen my fun conversations with Hogarth Brown of Global Astrology, who's just hilarious and also a really excellent Vedic astrologer. What he would say to you, Karen, is your Saturn return is coming up, and that is the power time. Like, take it back, like Kamala Harris, like, take your power. You have accrued this power and just roll with it. So the Saturn return is coming soon for you. But I'm going to turn it over to Isa, who's written a book called the New Return to the Great Mother, which addresses a lot of these things and these initiatory processes that we go through, with menopause being one of them. And the last thing I'll say before turning it over to you is, like, I think we really have to not buy into the cultural ideas about women of this age. And we just have to, like, be ourselves, like the vigorous, intelligent, accomplished, having gained so much information and experience, and be that which we are, which is, I'm going to let Isa roll from there.
I don't know. I've heard a lot of women, in their later years say, oh, like, I have gray hair, and when I got gray hair, I became invisible. And, but, invisible to what? Invisible to who? I think as women, especially in our generation, we were very, very, well, my generation, I'm a little bit older than all of you, certainly, but I think that it was not the 50s when I grew up, but it was the 60s, and even in the 70s, women were oriented to, how do I look, and how does that mean that I have value? And I think that is a problem, that people, and it's in the culture, it hasn't gone away, it's still the case. You have your value based on how you look, and how you look needs to be young and vibrant. And it's in how you look, it's not supposed to be old and vibrant, or it's not, it's a set of values, as you mentioned, within the culture that is the issue. So my advice would be to examine your relationship to external standards of beauty, external standards of power, external standards of who you're supposed to be and how you're supposed to be, and really look inward. In my book, The New Return to the Great Mother, menopause in traditional cultures is recognized as a movement of the creative power inward. And we have in puberty, we have the movement of the creative power outward, and we have that expression through the menstruation and through sexuality and through giving birth. You have a long run of that generative, external creative expression, but in menopause, it turns inward. And it's understood that this is a very important moment and movement, because the next initiation is death. And that is a completely internalized initiation. And so with that movement, if you resist that movement inward and try to stay somehow, get lots of, try to stay young, or try to, somehow not stand in the power of your years. If you don't follow that path inward, then you have less ability or less capacity to meet the demands of the very inward initiation of death. And so it's a serious moment. It's a moment where, in Italian, there's this beautiful expression, to make your soul. It's this moment where you begin to make your soul. You begin to listen to your soul in a very serious way, because most of your life is behind you now. And it's important to recognize that that's a shift, and to not mourn that, and to prepare for what is coming, and for when you step in to and become part of that ineffable path or that ineffable spark that has guided you or that you have always tried to understand and pursue. So I really recommend thinking about menopause as this very important movement inward and feeling the power of the creative force as it turns inward and let it fill you. And and then you become then the resource and the source for all of those around you. And that's what happens in traditional cultures, especially matriarchal cultures, where the older women are really considered to be the holders of wisdom and the most important source of wisdom for the community.
And I think men can follow that
Yes,
instruction as well.
absolutely. Yeah.
And that's a very spiritual practice you're describing.
yeah.
You know, it's a very spiritual practice.
And men do go through menopause.
Yeah, yeah.
Look at the sales of Viagra.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, but I think, you know, as we, you know, growing older, taking that time to really engage with, you know, our inner selves in that way. I mean, it's wonderful to do it throughout our lives, but it becomes
serious.
Imperative. You know, otherwise,
we don't have a choice.
Otherwise we're just, you know, what I see a lot of people in their 50s and 60s and 70s doing is like trying to still be like 30 and partying and like, I mean, trying to, you know, party or whatever, but like still holding those values and kind of behaving in those ways. And it's important to bring a balance to your life. And anyway, that's a thought. I also want to ask you to subscribe to the YouTube if you're on YouTube, because that also helps us. Like and subscribe. That helps us. And sorry, I'm just going to keep repeating it to remind you, or as new people come on, because it helps us reach more people. Clementine says, I'm grateful to the Sacred Stream for providing community for spiritual seekers. It seems like that is something we lose when leaving traditional religion.
That's really true.
Thank you.
Thank you for that comment. Meryl had something.
And so does Ron.
Okay.
I'm getting there. Okay. Ron, hey Ron. Ron designed our really cool t-shirts. So hey, Cody, would you put a link to our t-shirts in the thing? Because it's fun. If you want to support Sacred Stream, you can buy a t-shirt and wear it around. It's pretty and soft and a beautiful design. So Ron says, as an ex-Catholic, I have a lot of resistance to rules and dogma when it comes to my spiritual life. But I'm also leery of just ending up in a broad, mushy, spiritual, not religious place. How do you bring structure to your spiritual life and practice? Really great question.
I think as you look inward, you try to perceive what are the most important aspects of your quest to understand spirit. And so or where do you find yourself most fully when you're looking for spirit? Do you find yourself in music? Do you find yourself in nature? Do you find yourself in the tomes of poetry? And wherever you find yourself most easily, then and from that place, begin to create a ritual or a ceremony for yourself on a daily basis where you are engaging and strengthening your connection to that place within you where you find your spirit. I think in that way you can create your own channels to spirit and your own pathways to spirit. And you really can't, I mean, I understand why religions do work so much with ceremony and ritual, because they do channel energy. And most of the time, unfortunately, people don't understand that. And they don't know how to track the energy that's being evoked by the spirit or by the ceremony, but you know that. And you're starting at the place of spirit. And so then you create the ritual from that place. You create the ceremony from that place. And you make it a priority to bring that place where you find spirit most strongly into your life every day. If it's finding it in the sun as it's rising, then every day get up when the sun rises and be there to call in the spirit of the sun into your practice. So that would be my advice there.
Yeah, consistency. Consistency
is
and,
important.
And I have to say, Isa is one of the most consistent and dedicated practitioners that I know. You have incredible strength of consistency in your practice. I want to welcome Ken from Seattle. Hey, Ken, good to see you here.
Hi, Ken. Thanks for being here.
And Meryl's question. Thank you, Meryl. As a 75-year-old woman, I found beginning at 50, I stepped into my power by letting go of my ambition and stepping into and growing my wisdom in the inner relationship with the divine.
There's some good advice.
There it is.
A good path to follow.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And Karen said, wow, thank you so much for this perspective. It's so appreciated. So, thank you. So I wanted to mention, we have some events coming up.
Did we miss anybody up there?
Hey, I know what I'm doing.
Okay.
Hey, I know what I'm doing, lady.
Okay, all right.
I got this.
Okay.
So first, I want to say we have, we've been talking about this book that Isa's written, and also the New Return to the Great Mother and the initiatory aspects of our lives, really. And it's a really beautiful book, and it's an easy book to read, and it gives you a lot of places to focus and healing, incomplete initiations, and things of that nature. But we have, based on that book and the class that came out of the book, which is called Initiations of the Sacred Feminine.
Actually, the book came out of the class.
Okay, chicken, egg,
Yeah.
but get it. We're doing a very special women's retreat. We don't always just make exclusive women's retreat, but this one needed to be. It's coming up November 9th. Pick a number. November 9th. And it's called Purpose and Power, a Women's Retreat. And it's for people who've taken the Initiations of the Sacred Feminine class, and you're going to go deeper into working on matrilineal lines and examining your relationship with power. And if you want to take that class and you have not taken Initiations of the Sacred Feminine, you can still take that class on demand, because it is a prerequisite for that course. But I want to, I don't know, I think Cody may have had some child. Hey, there he is. Sorry, Cody, that you may have had to go take care of, leave on. So he's got that. And would you put the on demand and the on demand for
Initiations
of the
Sacred
Sacred
Feminine.
Feminine? I also want to mention, before taking another question, that we have our new book coming out very soon, and we have a book launch and celebration on November 10th, which is a Sunday, and it's in the afternoon. So just come on out. You can be online, or if you live nearby, please come down to the Sacred Stream. We're having a party. There's a raffle. We're going to do some Q&A. We're going to have food and drinks. It's from 2 to 4. And there was something else I was going to say. Oh, the name of the book. The name of the book is Depth Hypnosis, A Path to Healing, Power, and Transformation. Okay.
And you get to be in the Sacred Stream Center, which is so fun.
We can't say enough about how
enough.
magical that place is. We
There's
really,
really some amazing light shows in any given moment in that space.
yeah. We were talking with some students recently who just said, I love that I'm able to be online with you for classes, but I really love receiving transmission, receiving classes at the Sacred Stream Center. So if you haven't been, I encourage you to come and do a pilgrimage. If you're coming from out of town, or if you're local, there's no excuse. Come on over.
Well, the Sacred Stream Center it's in a building that was built in 1916, that was built as a Lutheran church. And
it's on unceded Ohlone lands. So it has a very long history of, depth and spirit.
Yes, and it's interesting, just from a religious, spiritual point of view. When I was little, the first school that I went to was a Lutheran school, and it was a missionary school in Hawaii, and its name was Trinity Lutheran.
Mhm.
And the name of this Lutheran church here, that was a church for 100 years before it was the Sacred Stream Center, was Trinity Lutheran.
Oh, wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I don't know why
I
didn't
kind
know
of
that. Yeah.
had a big moment when I saw mail coming to Trinity Lutheran.
Wow.
Yeah.
Jamie Tate's got a comment or a question here. Isa, you have taught me to look closely at the symbolism of all things and to see what type of meaning or lessons things or situations in the world around us carry when we can see past the physical or literal and look at the symbolic meaning and message that they may hold. I like to combine this way of viewing the world with the mystic perspective that says that the conditions of the outer world may be a projection of the happenings in our inner world. So when we view the world's feuding, bear with me, when we view the world's, sorry, feuding, and it seems to cut off there. But I love what you're saying there, Jamie. Yes, and we talk about the inner and outer
Oh, yeah.
experience in the book, and
Yeah.
and I think that is a tenet of many spiritual understandings. Particularly, we find it in Buddhist philosophical thought. Um, yes.
Especially the mind-only school, which says that
Mhm.
everything around you is a function of your mind.
Mm-hmm.
Everything within you is a function of your mind. All right. So thank you, Jamie, for bringing that forward.
So, got another question?
Okay.
Um, how can you recognize your spiritual path?
Okay. So we talked a little bit
Oh,
about
okay.
that, right?
Mhm.
And and I'll add another way to recognize your spiritual path to find out what makes you really happy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, to understand, what really enlivens you, and to do it. I know myself. I remember I had this moment where I was, again, I was at the hospice, and at Laguna Honda, and they had 1 billion um, volunteers in the hospice. They had a really good program, and they had a lot of hospice volunteers, but there were 18 other wards of people who were who had no 18 other wards with different types of illnesses. There was a ward of people that were all hooked up to machines, and they had no do not resuscitate orders, so they were there kind of eternally. And then there were people that were handicapped in some way or another physically. And I remember one day so I would go to the other wards because there was plenty of hospice volunteers, and there weren't volunteers in other wards. And I was on the way to another ward, and there were these big wards. They're like 18-bed wards, and there are 2 wings. On one side are the men, and one side are the women. And so I was walking down the middle. There's like a hall between the 2 sets of wards, of all the different wards, and there was a lobby there that had all these different machines where you could get sodas and candy bars and different things, and that was the place where a lot of the patients went for treats.
Mm-hmm.
And when I came through, and there were a lot of the handicapped people were there, and they were having trouble pressing the buttons, and they were having trouble getting the money in. And so I spent a couple of hours doing that for people. And I remember, like, I sat down, after doing that for a couple of hours, and I thought, this is all I ever want to do. It was like so wonderful to be able to offer something so simple and so meaningful to these people. And I think, and so I'm telling you that story because I do think a lot of people do find their path to spirit through service. And I think that this is one of the reasons why you have a lot of religions offer as a spiritual practice service.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would really think about, what is it that you would like to serve? who is it that you would like to serve, and to move toward understanding, how, how to make that happen, how you can do that. I mean, I made a practice of like going to that lobby on a regular basis, and such I had such profound experiences, and it brought me so deeply into my knowing of what I wanted to serve and why I wanted to be of service.
And
It's not a simple thing.
yeah, and that brought you
Yeah.
happiness. And I
Yeah.
think that's coming from a deep place of understanding service and how giving we can feel and receive our own healing in our relationship to giving to others. But I also want to emphasize that because there's a sort of an emphasis on martyrdom in many spiritual practices and like giving of yourself and not taking care of yourself. Isa teaches a great class called The Path of Service, where she really teaches you about how to take care of yourself. Put your own oxygen mask on first before you start being of service. So I don't want people to think, oh, I have to go like do all this service. Like first, you have to serve yourself not in a selfish way, but in a deep, nourishing way, like nourishing yourself so that you can know authentically what it is you want to do and how to engage with the spiritual path and how you want to perhaps give back. And I think that's important. I think it's really important. And I think that this is some of, giving yourself permission to have a spiritual path and to listen to yourself and what works for you, what makes you feel good and in your life. I think a lot of times we've had with traditional religions, when they get out of balance, coming between us and our connection to our spirit. And so much of and Isa and I have talked a lot about this, so much of what we need to do is have our own direct connection to spirit. And then we'll know more and be able to discern more what our path is. And it may be, hanging out in that lobby and helping people get their treats.
Well, I think that, I know myself, just talking very personally. For me, the greatest joy is being able to offer something that's useful to someone. And so to think about, and often the thing that you can offer that's most useful has to do with your own path. Like for instance, when depth hypnosis practitioners are trying to figure out where am I going to focus where am I going to focus my depth hypnosis practice, and they'll ask me, and I will inevitably and always say, think about what brought you to the path. Think about, like, was it a difficult childhood? Was it the loss of a parent? Was it, or the loss of a loved one? Or was it your struggle with addiction? What brought you to begin to try to understand yourself better? And most of the time, people have a real facility and a real gift in helping other people who have similar issues that they have. Of course, you have to watch transference and all that, and do your own work and make sure you're not doing it just so that you can be the one who knows and in the place where you never knew and these people still don't know. I mean, of course, depth hypnosis has a lot of fail safes, so that doesn't happen. but I think that that's, in terms of recognizing, where you want to serve, think about, what brought you to the path. And the thing is, you have so much cred, like as an ex-addict, you have so much cred. You have more cred than a psychiatrist that never was an addict in terms of understanding. Not that the psychiatrist wouldn't be very helpful and can be very helpful with people dealing with biochemical issues coming out of addiction. But and a lot of people worry that they're not enough, or that what do I know? Like, who am I to think that I can be of service? And it's like, yes, who are you? Who have you been? And that is how you can find your path to to serving others that may be in the same situation that you have been in at other times in your life.
And Cherise says, experiential wisdom. And Brangwin says, I think about that view of service as I now seek more help from others, and it makes it easier for me to ask as I know the good it does for the giver. That's great, Brangwin. And Jamie's got another question and comment. She says, this is the second part of my question. So, when we view the world's feuding religions through this symbolic lens, what could it be teaching us about our inner world? Would it be possibly pointing to an inner world in need of more integration of opposing parts of the self, like you teach us about with your lessons on inner coming to peace? It seems like religious wars could be symbolic of inner parts that might be at odds with each other in regards to the creator and power of creation. Cody, would you please link the inner coming to peace class that's coming up here in November? I think that's a perfect segue to do that. And Isa.
A resounding yes.
Yeah. Absolutely. And we teach about integrating these feuding parts, as it were, or disparate parts in the inner coming to peace class.
Yeah.
That is coming up in November too.
Yeah, thank you for that. Thank you so much, Jamie, for that thinking and connecting. I really appreciate that.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Well, we've had, we're coming to almost the hour.
Okay.
And any last questions or comments, please let us know. And don't forget to like with the thumbs up and comment and subscribe. Subscribing is great. And thank you. I really appreciate all of you for being here. This has really been fun. Isa and I are talking about we would like to do more of these. And when you guys come and participate and share your wisdom and your questions, it really makes it fun for us.
Thank you so much for being here. It's wonderful to be able to connect with you. And I'm happy anytime I get to talk about spirit. So thank you.
And one thing before we go, I want to ask our in-house guests, not to put them on the spot, but if they have a question, because I haven't reached out to them. But if you do, or a comment, now.
Yeah, I did have some, and they were beautifully covered by the questions asked. So.
Amy says her questions have been covered by all of you, so thank you. And a big thank you and shout out to Cody, who is here, and
Levon might still be here.
And Levon,
hi, Levon, if you're here.
Levon, hi. But thank you, Cody, always for your support. And I want to say hey to John. Oh my God, John, a bit late, didn't allow for daylight savings over here. Anyway, a quick hello before goodbye. So anyway, I just want to say John's in Australia. I met John a long time ago when I was a touring musician and I was on tour in Australia. And I remember you were at a number of shows, and it's just a joy to reconnect here with you on Facebook.
And YouTube.
And YouTube. And do it live here.
Yes,
so
here we are.
Thanks for showing up. Thank all of you. Any other?
No, I just want to thank you all for being here.
Yeah.
And we look forward to the next time where we can all be together and talk about spirit or whatever the spirit moves you.
And join us for the book launch. It's going to be fun. We're going to have a good time. Okay.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, guys. See you soon.